Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're going to be analyzing momentum shifts in the market using Heikin-Ashi candles. Now, we did an intro video to this yesterday on Bitcoin, and I'm just going to spend the first couple of minutes of this video reminding you what they are on the Bitcoin chart, but then we're actually going to dive into what's going on with Ethereum's valuation against the US dollar and against Bitcoin using the Heikin-Ashi candles. So if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. We also do have the sale on the premium list. Make sure you check it out. That'll run through the end of the year. So you just have a couple more days to lock in the lower rate into the cryptoverse.com. Let's go ahead and jump in. So these are the Heikin-Ashi candles for Bitcoin, and we talked about these in the video yesterday. And if you want to see that video, just click this link here. Who am I kidding, right? I don't edit my videos. If you guys want to find it, just check out the most recent video on my YouTube, or I'll put it in the description below, maybe, if I remember. So with this in mind, what are they? Well, you might think of it more as like an indicator or a moving average, so that it smooths out the trends that you kind of feel when it's happening. If you remember in the summer, if you just look at a normal candle, if you just look at normal candles, it sort of looks like it's just sideways. But the Heikin-Ashi candles really show that it is in fact a downtrend. And you might wonder, well, why are all these red? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. If normal candles can be, I mean, we had 3 green candles in a row here. Why are these 3 green? But with Heikin-Ashi, you can see that they're all red. Well, it's because Heikin-Ashi candles are just completely defined differently, right? They're just defined differently than a normal candle. Remember, a normal candle is green if it closes above where it opened, and it's red if it closes below where it opened. So pretty simple stuff. Whereas a Heikin-Ashi candle, if the close, which again is calculated differently, is below the midpoint of the prior candle, then it is in fact a red candle. Okay, so keep that in mind. And if you look at all these, you can see that the close of these candles, they're all below the midpoint of the prior candle, which is why they all stay red. So that downtrend is in fact a downtrend if you think about the amount of time perhaps and the actual prices that are investigated during that candle. So Heikin-Ashi candles actually care about what happened in the prior candle. They're not independent, right? They're not all independent. There is some dependence on another candle in order to show whether it's green or red, okay? So if we look at the formulas, which I was told that my face covered up some of the formulas, so I'm gonna move it up here. We can just quickly see that the close is equal to the open of the current period plus high of the current period plus low of the current period plus close of the current period divided by 4. So it's just the average of those 4. The open is the open, it's an average of the open from the last period and the close from the last period. So it's just those two added together divided by 2. The high is the max of the high of the current period, the open of the current period, and the close of the current period. But remember, the way that you calculate these isn't just like the way you calculate the open is actually dependent on the one before it, and then the low is the min of the low of the current period, the open of the current period, and the close of the current period. Therefore, open 0 is equal to the open of the current period, and open minus 1 is open of the prior period. Okay, so with that in mind, as we said in the video yesterday, you can generally identify uptrends and downtrends. Okay, so this is as far as we went. I mean, we went a lot further on this on Bitcoin in the prior video, but this video, believe it or not, is on Ethereum. Okay, so let's go look at how these candles look for Ethereum. If we go to one-day candles, I don't know that one-day candles are the most informative, but it does sort of show some of these momentum shifts that occur. The higher time frames you look at do tell a really different story. And you can note there's been several bearish phases of this market cycle for Ethereum. We had one back in mid-February, and I remember this was the time when a lot of people were saying to sell your Ethereum for altcoins. It was ridiculous. And I even came on and told people, look, guys, the Ethereum tsunami is coming. A lot of people are saying to sell your ETH for alts because alts have been performing well. It was some of the worst advice people could have given you, especially because Ethereum tends to be one of the last movers. And then you can see what happened next, right? We had an uptrend, we had one little last shakeout, and then Ethereum just skyrocketed. Okay, it just went up extremely quickly. I also now that I'm thinking about it, I did want to cover one more thing on this one, and that's the uptrends and the downtrends. So if you missed the last video, remember that the uptrends are characterized by large candle bodies, long upper shadows like these wicks, and then no lower shadows. Or if there is a lower shadow, not many of them compared to the actual trend. So a lot of upper shadows, large candle bodies, no lower shadows, and then downtrends are characterized by large candle bodies, long lower shadows like you see down here, and no upper shadows, or if there are some, not very many. And a lot of times the shift in momentum can come when you do get these sort of these large shadows to the upside as well. We almost did one here, but then we actually continued the downtrend, and you can see we're sort of trying to do the same thing over here. So I did want to remind people of that aspect as well. So then going back to Ethereum, we can see that there have been a number of bearish phases after this initial impulse move took us from just a few $100s up to about $2,000. There, in fact, have been a few bearish phases. If we go over to, say, weekly candles, it really does show, how strong the market was for quite a long period of time. I mean, if you look at this, going all the way back to March of 2020, most of these were green, and we just kept moving up with a few that actually, which actually turned red. But the general trend was just up for so long, and that was why we said to expect a summer dump, right? A summer lull, a 3 to 6 month lull in the market. And then now since then, we saw the pullback in September, which, it certainly was at lower prices than we are today. So the pullback back in September started at around $4,000 at the peak and then took us all the way back down to $2,600, $2,700. And it's funny because right now, that's more or less where we are. Now, we know we're actually below that, and the Heikin-Ashi is only actually showing a current valuation of $3,904, but that's because, again, it's a lagging indicator. It's not showing the exact price right now, okay? But you get the idea how quickly sentiment can change. So we had a downtrend, and we're currently in a downtrend. And perhaps the reason why this one feels worse than the one we had in September is because of how long it's lasting. Okay, this one only lasted about 3 weeks in terms of how long it really felt it took for prices to start turning back around. This one, we're already in our 7th week. So this phase certainly feels a bit more like this phase over here than it does this one, because it's already more than twice as long as the phase that we had back in September when the market was in fact going down. So right now, it is true that Ethereum is in a downtrend, okay, on some of these lower timeframes, like weekly timeframes. It is in a downtrend. And again, some people take issue with that, but again, as I've said before, it just is what it is. I don't control what it is. I just tell you what it is, and what it is a downtrend. It's a bearish phase of the cycle, and those are going to exist in every market, and they can last a long time. I mean, if you go back to prior times in the cycle, or in, say, last cycle, we had this was brutal. That was brutal, okay? But we also sort of had these short bearish phases at other times, right? Even in 2019, and then one in 2020, and then even here in mid 2020. So it's not like these are uncommon. I mean, they do happen, and especially you're going to get them, after you've had such major moves in the market. Remember, my speculation for this market cycle is that we have a really long way to go, that the market cycle was never going to end in 2021, that at the very least it'll go very deep into 2022, and there's a chance it even goes beyond 2022, maybe even into 2023. But I think we have a long way to go to prove whether or not that pans out. So let's go to slightly longer time frames, because it really does have a way of cutting out the noise. If you go to 2-week candles, what you'll notice is that the September downtrend is basically non-existent. Okay, so when you look at these longer moves in the market, and let's say you just use 2-week candles to identify momentum shifts, the September drop wouldn't have even shown a momentum shift. It was still a green, like the momentum was still up when looking at 2-week candles. Now we did have a change in direction here back in the summer, when we went down for, a number of weeks in a row. And arguably, we're in a downtrend again here, even on the 2-week time frame. So, my guess, again, it's just a guess. I have no idea what's going to happen in the short term, but I would guess that we still have a ways to go before we're going to see a major breakout to the upside. Okay. With Bitcoin below the bull market support band, we know that last time it took it about 3 months to get back above it. And so far we've only been below it for a few weeks. So I would still expect it to be a little while before Ethereum is going to, to have a major break to say 5K, 6K. I don't anticipate that happening in the next week or two, but I could see it happening, a few months down the line, but not immediately. Okay, so we need to, we need to find a local bottom for Bitcoin and by association, Ethereum, and to really turn this momentum around. And once the momentum does turn, hopefully we'll get, a number of candles in a row where we actually see some more upside. But look at this. Look at 1 month candles. This is interesting, because if you look at 1 month candles, Ethereum is not even technically in a downtrend yet based on a 1 month candle, Heikin-Ashi candle, which again, as I said before, is a lagging indicator, right? It is a lagging indicator, but regardless, we're still above the midpoint from the prior candle when looking at how it calculates it out. So, from this perspective, right, there certainly is reason to still be somewhat optimistic, but do note that uptrends, as we said before, are characterized by large candle bodies, very high, large shadows on the upside, but not the downside. And this one does have one to the downside here. So what that shows to me anyways, is that there is a little bit of weakness here, just like we had back in June. Okay, we had something similar in June, and then the next one ended up being red. It didn't mean that we were completely off course. It just, we had to kick the can down the road for a couple months before we got back on course. So, I don't necessarily expect that Ethereum is going to have a major breakout here in the next week, probably not even in the next month, if we're being completely honest. But, I would say let's look at some of these longer time frame candles and see if the momentum can get back on track. And then finally, let's look at 2 month candles. It's funny when you look at 2 month candles, because on 2 month candles, there still isn't a shadow to the downside over here. There was back in July. Okay, but still, 2 month candles still show a pretty solid uptrend for Ethereum. Okay, and the way these are calculated out, it's currently higher than it has been for any prior closes. The way that the Heikin-Ashi candles are calculated. And then I suppose we could just look at quarterly candles too. And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 greens in a row. 7 green quarterly candles, quarterly Heikin-Ashi candles in a row. And we'll see what happens as we head into 2022. So hopefully you guys like the content. If you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the premium list, holiday sale, intothecryptoverse.com. You have a couple more days to lock in the rate. You'll get access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, trading indicators, and a whole lot more. Make sure you check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.